Hey, welcome to the closing beat, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome back. I hate the weekends. There's just nothing to do on the weekends, but we're missing our little ticker down there today. It looks like that maybe didn't get updated just yet. Yeah, no problem. All right, so no bottom ticker today. We'll go over the news that's on there in the meantime, but thanks for joining us, by the way. Hey, this Wednesday, this Wednesday, we're doing an open house, 8 o'clock, live here on YouTube. If you want to know what it's like to work with Jazz Wealth, bring your questions, anything that you're interested in as far as how we operate, how we do things here. I'm going to share with you how everything works, and then, of course, we will take your questions if you have it. But if you've been thinking about Jazz Wealth, then great, come check us out. We'll be glad to help you out there. So anyways, let's get started here. If you're just joining us, we're missing the bottom scroller today, but off to the left, you've got the markets. You've got what's happened today. The Dow was higher to start the day, I believe by 125 points. It sort of started off strong and then just faded out throughout the day. It closed down on the day by 57. The S&P did close positive by 5. That's thanks to the semiconductor stocks. We'll go over that in a minute. And then the Nasdaq closed higher on the day by 21 points. So you're able to check that out there on the screen. Now, if we go sector-wise, actually, let's just hop over to the different, let me see if I can get to, we'll just do this on the charts today. So sector-wise, well, here, let's start with the markets. You got the Dow basically sort of flatlining. There's not really a lot to talk about if you're a Dow investor. It hasn't really been all that exciting, to be honest, so not much there. The Nasdaq is desperately trying to hold on to this support area, and today, very, okay, it did it. So technical traders are looking at that support, and so far it is holding. The S&P 500 continued to pull back at the end of last week, just that nice little simple breathing out pattern. I don't like that today it didn't finish near the highs. You'd honestly like to see that finish near the highs of the day. Didn't quite make it happen, but then again, there wasn't much to go on, so that's kind of understandable. So those are the major markets. Now, individual sectors, if we start looking down, we talked last week a lot about the semiconductors and the banking stocks. Well, today the semiconductor stocks really helped support the S&P 500, and so as a whole, semiconductors were higher by 1%. Now that was thanks in part to like advanced micro devices up another 9%. What did we have here? Advanced micro devices, Texas Instruments didn't really finish there. Nvidia is one of the bigger leaders in the group. We'll go over, we'll go over a few more as we go through that list there. Broadcom, Qualcomm also. There you go. So you can start to see some of the semiconductors that were higher on the day. Well, that helps sort of stop the decline that we saw last week, which in turn helps the markets. We always say you need the semiconductors and you need the banks. So with those helping out today, it was very good, very helpful, but the banking stocks didn't do a whole lot. So you just got a few point rally there out of the S&P 500. Now, one of the sectors that sticks out today is transports. So transports as a whole, these are transportation companies, whether it's shipping, air freight, trains, things like that. They did really well today. That was my best performing sector on the group as far as looking at the S&P sectors, gaining almost 2%. Now, if we look at a few of the names, you think of the obvious ones. You think of the obvious ones like UPS, that added 1%. Fedex added 1%, right? No, 1.5%. CSX, the railroad company, added about 1%. Now, what you get out of that is, hey, it wasn't one stock or one bit of good news that sent one stock higher and thus pulled the whole sector with it. You really get a feeling that this is broad-based buying across the whole sector. As you work through all of the different stocks in the transportation sector, Union Pacific, like we said, UPS, FedEx, and all that, as you work through it, you start to see, oh man, this is money being spread out across the sector, which means it's money moving from somewhere else into the transportation sector or doubling down on investments. So it's a really good sign if you have stocks in the transportation sector. So I just want to point that out. There's a difference between news-driven money moving into a sector and money sector rotation, as they call it. A little early to say that, really, but kind of nice. If you have transportation stocks, they should have all had a really good day today, breaking out to new highs. All right. Other than that, let's take a look. Gold didn't do a whole lot today. Small little recovery in bonds. Oil down about 1/3%. Not much there. We covered banks. So let's go over to a few individual stocks here. First of all, you're going to see in the headlines CBS. That's a follow-up on the whole sexual allegations thing. Their CEO is out the door. Leslie Moonves is gone. It just adds more volatility to the stock. Remember what we talked about weeks back, that investors don't like uncertainty. So it can be that something is going good or something is going bad. You notice how like sometimes a stock gets nothing but bad news, but the stock creeps higher little by little? It's because it's certainty. Things are going bad and maybe they get better. It's that. People understand it. But when there was uncertainty about was this guy guilty of some sort of sexual allegations or was he not, you get wild whippy action in the stock. And that's just because some people are willing to participate and some people want nothing to do with it. Well, we got some resolution today, at least part of it. The CEO is out, and now basically if he's found guilty by their own trial, the board of directors, they even swapped out a few board of directors. If he's found guilty, he does not get the $120 million. If he's found not guilty, he gets the $120 million. So now it's going to become kind of a fun media thing. What did they decide? And we'll probably find out within a week or so, since it's not a typical sort of due process. It's just all done by the board of directors. So very interesting story going on there. We'll follow up with that. Apple was a little bit lower on the day today. Remember, Wednesday, Apple has their new iPhones coming out, so you guys can go spend your thousands of dollars on the new iPhones. But the company basically said that, hey, these new tariffs that Trump is thinking about putting on, $267 or $287 billion in tariffs, they said that's going to make our prices go higher, and analysts have been saying anywhere from 20 to 25% on some of their phones, watches, things that are made over in China. And so they released this letter that said that. Trump puts in a tweet. He says, well, then make your stuff in the U.S. Make your stuff in the U.S. There won't be any tariffs. We got no problem. So there was that back and forth today. The stock was down by 1 1/3%. Really, most people don't mind. If you look at it, it's had a great run here since the Buffett buy back when he announced that he added more to his position, made a huge purchase. And so this is normal profit taking. I don't think anybody really cares at the moment. It just means that on the tariff side of things, we were working with Caterpillar. That was one that we kept like focusing in on. Boeing we were focused in on when these tariff news events came out. Now it just means Apple gets thrown into that mix as well. So we'll keep talking about it for sure. Tesla higher by almost 9% on the day. Remember, that one was overextended. Friday we said that's one where it sold off a little too far, too fast, and people would come in and try to buy that bottom. Well, it helps with on the day that people are trying to buy the bottom, you get an analyst that says you should buy this stock even with the drama right here. So the analyst flat out just came out and said this stock is a buy right here, right now. That's impressive that they would do that. I've got another one to comment on in a minute. But the bottom line is, long-term investors, you know Tesla needs money. Tesla's going to get the money from somewhere. If they can't get the money or money starts to freeze up a little bit, they're in big, big trouble. Just want to point that out. They need money. So just so you know. And then a couple others here. We'll do, we got a hurricane coming to hit the United States here. Thankfully not our area. If you're up in the sort of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina area, chances are you are preparing and you're going to places like Home Depot. Stock was higher by 2% today. You may be going to Lowe's. Stock was higher by 2.5% today. You may be making sure that you're paid up on your insurance policies at Allstate. And so you got Allstate down 2% today because they may have to pay out a decent amount there. You maybe use Travelers Insurance, and so you're checking your policy there. Stock is down by about 2%. I don't know if you use AIG, but they're down 1%. And who was the other towards the top of the list there? You catch my drift though, right? My list has just messed itself up here. You get the idea. Suppliers up on the news and insurers down on the news. If you're brand new to investing and you go, holy cow, doesn't this mean AIG, Travelers, Allstate, State Farm, they're all going to go bankrupt because they have to pay out all this money? No, they actually don't pay out any money in damages. They will, now technically they pay it out, but it's very interesting if you see how catastrophe bonds work. We did a video on it a long time ago. Actually, it was last year about this time when the hurricane hit my town, And so we talked about the damages and how insurance companies actually survive when there's a major catastrophe. Well, they're called catastrophe bonds. So if that's something you want to check out, pretty cool. I don't know. I find it interesting. Okay, so now if we go through, let's go over here to Alibaba, because you're going to see that in the news too. The Jack Ma, which by the way, if you're in China, if you are a Chinese investor of any kind, they worship Jack Ma. I mean, worship the living daylights out of this guy. He is as high up there as any other spiritual god, leader, or, well, I meant to say politician. They love this guy. Well, he's going to retire next year, and he's starting that process of putting the next guy in charge and making everybody comfortable with him. It's up to this new guy, who's a great guy, by the way. If you're like an Alibaba shareholder, the guy that's taken over, he's the guy who's almost solely responsible for Singles Day. If you're familiar with in China, Singles Day is basically a day where they say, just go out and buy yourself something. And it's genius, right? Everybody goes and buys stuff. It's incredibly, incredibly profitable. Well, the guy that's taken over for Alibaba, he's the guy that came up with, or is in charge of kind of pushing that and getting it to be as mainstream as it is. Okay, Wynn Resorts. I want to cover this one real quick because I know a lot of you make comments on this one. Wynn Resorts, you had an analyst come out today at Deutsche Bank. And this, I just thought it was interesting. Normally, I don't comment on analysts, but the analyst came out and said, if Wynn Resorts is not currently at a bottom, then it is very close to a bottom and you should buy the stock there. So people took that one seriously, bought the stock. It was up 4.5% today. That's a bold statement for someone. It's one thing for an analyst to say, well, we have price target around like 165 or something. You know, you're just shooting for numbers there. They have their guess, and everybody's guess is a guess. But for a guy to say, if this is not the exact bottom, then it is very, very close and you should buy the stock, that's impressive. That's called putting yourself out there. You guys watch these videos or you watch financial media where people say, oh, I think it's a buy, I think it's a sell. For someone to say it's a buy right now, that's 2 calls today between Tesla and Wynn. Very, very brave and bold. All right, before we get to any questions you have, let's look at some of the top gainers in the S&P. AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, 0 news on this one. This is simply people chasing the stock. You remember Square? Remember Bitcoin? Remember how these things move too far, too fast? There's no news. There's nothing for me to share with you other than people just diving into this stock. United Rentals, not really an exciting stock, but they agreed to buy another company. Foot Locker on the charts there got an upgrade, which is good. Foot Locker was doing well for a while. Wynn, we just mentioned, the analyst said go ahead and buy it. CHR Worldwide, that is a transportation company. That stock broke to new highs. JB Hunt, also a transportation company that you guys are probably familiar with. And other than that, you have some of the semiconductors and tech stocks, Broadcom, Akamai, QCOM, we talked about it. Retail was in the news a little bit today with the Home Depot and the Lowe's, that going on. You got American Airlines, that's not really that exciting. What else? Mattel, interesting little recovery there. Remember, they're going to be making their own movies on Barbie, Hot Wheels. They're not going to be subbing that out. They're going to do it themselves. So if that's successful, that could be very nice for them. And then we mentioned limited brands, right? Seem to be, we talked about that earlier today. Fair value for limited brands is actually a little bit higher here. We talked about that in our Doe show real quick. Ralph Lauren a little higher, and Nike, one of the big gainers today, 2.25%, if that's something that you're interested in. Whoo, I feel like I talked a lot. What else do we have? Weight Watchers is going to join the S&P 400 Mid-Cap Index tomorrow, I believe. Wells Fargo says Amazon will beat Walmart as #1 in the apparel retail sector by the end of this year. So, crazy. That's that. Anyways, if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them for you as best I can. Apple and Ford was thrown in the fire with the tariffs. Yeah, it's gonna get interesting. You think Tesla will continue to drop, Henry? What was the one analyst? We mentioned this last week. The Goldman Sachs, I believe, their price target was 195. I don't know. I'm working on upgrading all that's in front of me right here so I can have so much data to share because I have it over there. I don't have it right here. So the update here is just going to get better and better. But I'm working on that. I need a little more time. Yeah, we'll see. You don't trust Chinese stocks. It's going to be tough, right? There's going to be a lot going on there. We'll see. Well, of course, we'll keep you posted. Henry says, Square and AMD will drop. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious, just a matter of when. What's the thoughts on Cree? I haven't looked at this one in a while. This one, there's a lot of names in this category that were doing really well and then just sort of flatlined. So they kind of lost, you can tell, they lost flavor with the market, they lost flavor with the investors. Investors have all moved on to other things. I really think that's the only issue at the moment, because the stock in general, normally one of the better moving ones there. I don't have anything problem with the fundamentals or anything. I haven't looked at it in a while. But one of the things I thought about doing was more one-off stock update videos, because there's so much to share, like how deep you can go in some of these stocks. And so we'll see. Maybe that's something I can do. Facebook, did it get a little bit today? It ended up finishing positive. Unfortunately, that's one of those where today doesn't tell you anything on Facebook. You really want to see either another solid push lower or a really solid green day. Today was one of those back and forth days, could have gone either way. So I still think you need a lot more information out of Facebook. I've been one of those that said since that earnings drop, imagine falling out of a one-story building, no problem. You get up, you walk it off, maybe some scratches or whatever. Facebook fell out of a 10-story building. So when you fall off of a 10-story building, it's going to take you a minute to get back up. Think about that with Facebook. It's going to be some time before they get back up and get back to work. You like the one-off idea? I think I do too. I enjoy doing the deeper analysis on each stock. It's what I do anyways. I love doing it, so I thought maybe making videos out of that, we'd test them out and see. What's your option on QQQ ETF? You say option, do you mean you have some sort of put or call? Is that what you're talking about? I love the QQQ as a vehicle for trading the Nasdaq, by the way. Plenty of volume. It's definitely liquid. 25 million shares trade a day, actually a little bit more than that. So I love that. If you trade options and that's what you're asking for, plenty of choices on that one. Also like the IWM for the Russell 2000. Roku, yeah, new highs, looking good there. They got some good news, right? I mean, a lot of people are starting to come around to the idea of Roku really being a disruptor where it's sort of been quiet for a while. Could it be a buyout, Robin? Do you think they could be bought out? Acquired? Time to jump Skyline. That's where I'll leave it when people start saying stuff like that. I know you're joking. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Remember, Wednesday, we've got the open house with Jazz Wealth. If you've been thinking about using us, starting a new account, transferring an account, rolling over a 401k, I don't know why they make these so complicated, but if you've been thinking about it and you want to know more specifically how we work, or you just had a question, you've been a little scared to give us a call, or haven't had the time, well, maybe you'll tune in for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, live here on YouTube. We're going to go over everything. I'll show you everything that we have to offer. You can take it or leave it. All right, guys, see you then.
Hey, wait! Before you go watch one of our other great videos, have you had a chance to see our new Fin Tips videos? They focus on one topic at a time, covering investing, personal finance, and anything that can quickly help you with your dough. Best of all, we'll keep it real short, because we know time is money.